Welcome back to Black News Night. Mike Hill sitting in for Mark Lamont Hill tonight. Last night, social media exploded with anti-black racist bigotry as thousands of hateful tweets were directed against 3 black soccer players of the English national team. Now, this happened last night once again in a huge match. They were playing against Italy at the famous Wembley Stadium in England for the European Championship title. This is a huge match, just right below the World Cup. The 1-1 tied game went to a penalty shootout, and 3 young black players, Jadon Sancho, Bukayo Saka, and Marcus Rashford missed back-to-back penalty kicks, and England lost the 2020 Euro trophy after coming very close to winning a major tournament for the first time in 55 years. Now, right after, as expected, Twitter had to close down at least 1,000 accounts as the 3 players received countless hate messages on social media. This has been a huge issue over there. UK Prime Minister, I should say, Boris Johnson, who's had his own history of racism in the past, tweeted, and I quote, "Those responsible for this appalling abuse should be ashamed of themselves." Also, England's Football Association condemned the attacks and said they will do all we can to support the players affected while urging the toughest punishments possible for anyone responsible. And the English head coach, Gareth Southgate, very clear in his condemnation of these attacks, saying this:
the players have had an incredible togetherness and spirit, which I think has brought so many parts of our country together. So, you know, they should be, and I think they are, incredibly proud of what they've done. For some of them to be abused is unforgivable, really.
Racist attacks weren't limited only to social media. A mural in Manchester portraying Marcus Rashford, who is one of the 3 black players I just talked about, also vandalized. A member of the community street art organization that first commissioned the mural rushed to cover up the racist graffiti.
We dared to dream yesterday, and our hopes were dashed. But to wake up to this is it's more depressing, isn't it? Like that we live in a country where this kind of response is, you know, the new normal now, isn't it? Like this. This racism seems to be more and more prevalent, doesn't it?
Let's talk more about this. Joining us now to discuss is Danny Webber, who played for the famous team Man U, Manchester United. He was also part of the international under-21 youth team. Danny, welcome. I wish we were talking to you under different circumstances. First of all, I understand you're friends with Marcus. Have you been able to talk to him? How's he doing right now?
Yeah, no, I mean, I know the family. I know Marcus. You know, we're from the similar area in Manchester, and being around the football club as well, Manchester United, still in some capacity. You know, we rub shoulders, but you know, I've not had the chance to speak to him. But what I have seen is an overwhelming support from Manchester United and the local community in Manchester after the abuse of some unintelligent people, should I say.
And unintelligent, just ignorant, downright racist people. And, you know, I got to admit, when I first saw this, and I've been covering sports for a long period of time, I knew this was going to happen. And that's unfortunate that I knew, because of the history of racism in soccer around the world. I've always said that soccer is the world's most famous sport, but it's also the most racist sport. Of course, you had to deal with it over there. Tell us about some of the history and some of the things that you've had to go through as far as this going throughout the European community, I should say.
Yeah, no, I think even growing up in Manchester, you know, my father used to say to me, my parents, my mom is white, my dad is black, and we've Jamaican descendancy. So I'm 3rd generation Jamaican, and my father always used to make me aware of the rallies that used to happen and the racist rallies that we used to have to, you know, be aware of as young people in England. And then as you grow and you realize that things are harder for you, you know, you have to do the extra yards. You have to, it's more difficult for you. You come into the professional environment where you're all of a sudden you're in stadiums, you have people who have a voice. And I think back then when I started playing, we didn't have a voice like the players today. You know, they have their social media accounts, they have the media as outlets, but we used to have to, you know, you look into a crowd and you're looking at 30, 40,000 people and you're hearing abuse come out. You know, what do you say? Who do you single out? Because these people who do this, they're cowards. They don't come to the front and have a one-to-one conversation. So it's been fully embedded in in society, let alone sport, for years and years. And to be honest, and the saddening thing is, I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon.
Danny, let's break this down, because you said one-on-one conversation, because when I look at soccer, look, there's racism, of course, that exists in the world of sports over here. We see it at basketball games. We hear basketball players get called ugly names, football players. We know about the NFL issues over here and whatnot. In soccer, you hear chants. A large portion of the stadium chanting, monkey noises are being heard, bananas are being thrown on the field. We've seen players have to leave the field. Federations have gotten involved. They've had to play in front of no crowds whatsoever. What is the role, do you think, though, of the English government and society dealing with racism in soccer? Because I always feel like racism and sports in general is a microcosm of society.
Yeah, well, I think that the people higher up, the government, the governing bodies, they need to do more. And when I say more, not put a campaign together and just get people speaking about it and just raise awareness. You know, awareness has fully been raised and people know what's going on. Now it's about action. You know, in terms of the social media platforms as well, your Twitters, your Instagrams, your Snapchats, all of the different ones. You know, the government should be implementing fines and enforcing that they do something about it as well. You know, I know for sure that if they wanted to find me on my cell phone, then they would be able to do that. So they need to be able to find the people who are putting across the racist slurs and the abuse online, and find them directly and, you know, do something about it, publicly shame them, convict people for racism, make it that much of a big deal, because otherwise, if the consequences are not strong enough, nothing will happen. And I just don't think that the government have done enough. I think you've got Priti Patel, who's the Home Secretary, who was condoning, well, he didn't condemn racist people for booing when people were taking the knee before the game. You know, he said it was gesture politics, and people should have the right to boo or not. And I just think when you've got people on the television who a lot of the country look towards as the beacon of, you know, their direction that they take, those people have a bigger responsibility and they need to do something about it. And I think it's lax, and I think there's a lot of lip service being paid to people. And what I will say is, you know, as you see the team taking the knee, that was something that the team felt strongly about. Yeah, black and white people all together within the team, and Gareth Southgate felt strongly about doing that. And unfortunately, there's a section of society that doesn't quite feel the same.
And then once again, just like over here in America, there are politicians who also condemn that type of protest as well. So that could be a huge issue, allowing some of these idiots to do what they're doing. How about more of the players? And we've seen the white players and the European players unite with the black players, console them and whatnot. What more can they do, in your opinion? Does it come down to, what, as long as this is happening in our stadiums and as long as it's going on, we're just not going to play? Is that part of the solution?
Well, I think it is part of the solution, but then the hard part about that is you're taking away the freedom these boys have. They work so hard to be professional footballers, and their one freedom, which normally should be on the field, you're having to take that away as well. I think they're doing as much as they can. That's what I will say. People are speaking up now. People are using their social media platforms. People are getting together, both black and white people, and every race coming together in terms of the players to speak up and say that they feel it's wrong. You're not seeing any of the players condone it. There's nobody, whether they have thought it in the past or even think it, there's nobody stepping up from the playing community to say, with any racial slurs. So they're doing all they can. They're using their platforms. It's now up to the people up above to take notice and do something even further.
Well, hopefully, Danny, I try and be a glass half full guy. I know there's a lot of negativity in the world, but when I see things like this, there's a negative part of actually having to report and talk about this here in 2021. But the positive thing is we're bringing light to it. And like you said, social media is a big part of that. So do you see this and what happening last night and the attention that it's getting? Could that be a watershed moment prompting some kind of change?
I'd love to share your optimism, and you know, I just don't. I mean, I've lived through how many years of it over here, and I just don't see it. I said earlier on a different channel, I said, you know, 5 to 10 years, we could still be sat here talking about the same things, and just in a different wrapper. You know, that's the thing. It's wrapped up in a different envelope. So I would love to share your optimism, and I hope that everybody does everything and pulls in the right direction to do so. I, for one, will be, but you know, I want to see it to believe it.
Well, Danny, keep on doing your part. Thank you for being a part of the show tonight here on BNC and on Black News Tonight. Very insightful perspective, and once again, thank you for your comments and your time. I know it's pretty late over there.
Take care, everybody.
Appreciate it.